What's up, experts? We did it, man. We launched off last week with episode 1. It went well. We're going to keep getting better. And this week's episode is near and dear to my heart. And it's, probably going to be a very monumental episode because this episode we talking about marriage. My wife is on this episode. We talking about our origin story, digging into some particulars about our marriage and just our journey. This ain't all of it because it's too much to fit into one episode, but I hope for what it is and hopefully what it offers, you all enjoy it and that it gives some value to your life. Expert Human, let's get to the show. Hello world, what's up? This is Joshua. Welcome to episode 2, episode dos of the Expert Human podcast. We 2 episodes in, man. Like we are officially doing a podcast together. I was so excited. So yeah, man, welcome to episode 2, Expert Human. Like I said, my name's Joshua. If you don't know, we're going to show that this pod exists to enlighten, educate, and empower every human being to be the expert version of themselves. That is the theme of the show. That is the spirit and the mission and the purpose of the show. And that's what we're doing. And so listen, got a special one for y'all today. Listen, I got a guest on the show today that I don't even know if I can consider her a guest or not. But the person who I have on the show today, I'm very attracted to this person, and this person has a wonderful character and a wonderful spirit and heart about her, and it's a bonus that she's shapely and lovely and bountiful in a lot of ways. And so, listen, man, I got wifey Boo Boo Elaine, my boo, on the show. What's up, boo?
Hey, what's up, Josh? Jerome. Super excited to be on your show, The Expert Human.
Our show.
Yeah. Our show, excuse me.
Yeah.
But I'm the star guest. So I'm super excited to be on the show. Wow, I feel very
You glowing over there.
Yeah, I'm elated. I'm elated to be a part of the show, and I'm super proud of you for, just taking that step. And I'm just super proud of everything that you're doing, to start it. It's I like the bravery.
Yeah.
It takes that.
Well, you know the bravery, the exact kind of bravery that I've kind of had to conjure up to do something like this. And so, it just was right for you to be the first outside contributing voice that will be a regular contribution. And so, man, I'm super happy to have you on, so much so that I actually forgot to give a shout out to our sponsors. So huge shout out to our sponsor for this episode, There's Hope. There's Hope is the brand that fuels hope through fashion. And so huge shout out to our sponsor. More from them later as we transition to a new segment that I think that you all will enjoy. And so huge shout out to the good people over there. There's Hope. And so, yeah, man, I wanted to have you on to talk about, marriage, for us to kind of talk about our marriage a little bit and hopefully an honest and helpful way to talk about marriage from a few different perspectives. And so I think it would be helpful actually for us to kind of talk through how we met each other, kind of what the origin story of our coming together. It's interesting because we've been married now. This year will be 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah, which is like crazy to even think about.
Yeah.
Just in and of itself, like 13 years of life with each other.
Wow, that's beyond a decade.
Yeah. And so, man, we've done so much life together. We've, had children together. We've had cars repoed together.
Wow.
We bought a house together.
Hey, we lost jobs together.
We've lost jobs together. We've been to the mountaintop. We celebrated like extremely like mind blowing blessings together. So
Absolutely.
we've kind of run a gambit of different experiences throughout our marriage. But I want to just kind of start off a little bit with talking about how we met and kind of what that was for you. I know you and I, we always kind of playfully have like competing stories of not who was the pursuer, because I definitely pursued you, but how responsive you were to the pursuit.
Well,
and how I may have done things wrong and done things right in pursuing you. And so I want to kick it to you to like kind of talk about, what was it? Summer of 2010 when we first really kind of laid eyes on each other, and what
it
that
didn't take us long to get married.
Say it again.
So because it didn't take us long to like get engaged and get married.
It felt like a long time to me.
Of course. But honestly, like, hey everybody, we met. I always say that we met at the school, but according to Jerome, we saw each other at the school.
You always say that.
I always say that because I feel like that's the first time we actually met. But we actually met through our local church at the time, Church of God in Christ, Mount Calvary Church of God in Christ. It was so funny because we always had like in the church, at the time we had matchmakers.
Okay.
Some of the people in the church was trying to play matchmakers, but I had met Josh through the work release. He was coming through work release, and I remember. I think it was actually Easter, and we were actually preparing for the Easter because remember we had got that big cross that they were working on, and we would show up at the church like on the weekends.
Who's your king now?
Who's your king now? So funny. So yeah, we had met, and I believe it was at the time it was Pastor Tammy that was like, she had approached me first, and she was like, Sister Stephanie, how old are you? And then sometime later she asked Josh, how old are you? And
I remember that.
And we both talked to her and tell her what our age was, and she was like, had googly eyes at us like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
And then like it was crazy because like we both were single at the time, and there was just random people throughout the church trying to like match make us and try to put us together.
Black people will do that to you.
Yeah.
Black people will definitely try and put y'all both like the color yellow. Y'all look like y'all could go together.
And so it was crazy because we would show up at the church events together, and I know I would make like little comments to him, just kind of low key flirting and still trying to keep my emotions intact. But for the most part, like, I don't even know how you got my number. Somebody in the church to this day, I'm like, I think it was at the time she gave you my number because I was like, how are you calling me? How you got my number? And everybody was just kind of really trying to play matchmaker and try to put us together. But we met in church.
Yeah.
Honestly, wow. I would have never thought that, I would have met my husband in church. And it's like,
really? What would you expect?
No,
you was like, you was knee deep in the church. So like, what would you expect?
Right. I'm saying like I encountered you in the church or whatever like that. I didn't have it in my mind. Like my expectation was like, I want a God-fearing man, a very devout man, loves God. Because if he knows how to love God, he'll set me, set my daughter at the time. And it's like, grocery store, out somewhere. It was really a blessing, to really have met you in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
even though some people thought I was going to marry a pastor, but
I got you. Yeah. I mean,
and I can understand why, but
yeah, because you were super churchy back then. You was super churchy.
I was fresh out of high school. I didn't know really much about God. So
I mean, just from my
vantage
vantage point though, like even just like observing you from afar, like you were someone that one of my first impressions of you was like, yo, you're churchy.
Yeah.
You're buttoned up. You kind of got like your ducks in a row. And I know during that time, 2010, like I was still pretty aware or not. Yeah, I felt like I was still kind of getting myself together in terms of like, if I was like, am I living for God for real? What does that look like? What am I giving up? What am I going to get in return of giving up some of these proclivities
Right.
and desires? And I was still like very much fleshing out like who I was and who I was going to be. And so like, or at least I thought I was going to be. And so when I seen you, I was just like, oh, this, like for me, it was like, oh, you're further down the road of kind of like that development or resolve of like your personhood. Like you seem to kind of have yourself together a little bit more than I did at the time. And so I wasn't really intimidated by it, but I was just so focused on wanting to figure out who I was going to be that like interest, even though, so I'm saying it to say, because even though people were trying to match make us up, it felt like we both were of the headspace where it was like, man, I ain't worried about that Joker. Like, that's
for real.
That's
like,
kind of how I wasn't like.
I felt like I was more outwardly expressing that sometimes without words than you were. Well, you did kind of get that impression, like I ain't trying to entertain nobody. I got my blinders on.
No, I wasn't.
And like really like that was an attraction for me,
Mm-hmm.
because at the time there were other men that were coming through the work release, and they had agendas. Let's just be honest. Like they had agendas. Some of the women had agendas. Young women had agendas that weren't really involved with the church that we were in, but I felt like you had those blinders on, like you weren't just the typical, man, like, oh, I'm in a church full of women. I'm on a hunt to find,
right.
Not necessarily a wife, but like I'm gonna see, who I can link up with. So that was definitely something that stood out to me, because there was not a lot of young, real talk. Like there was not a lot of young women my age and men my age that was really on fire for God.
So
meant Jesus for real.
So how old were we back then? That was 2010. So we were 25.
25.
Yeah, we were 25.
When we met each other? Okay. I thought we were like 23, 19, 21.
No, we was 25. 2010. 2010 would have been 25. We got that math right. Yeah, 2010 would have been 25, maybe 24.
I feel like we were 23, but nonetheless, like I know we were in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Mid-20s.
And so like, at 25 for me, like, so the point I was going to make was like kind of the opposite end of what you were saying was a point of just emphasis for me, because to your point, I know you were referring to work release. And for those who don't know, like, work release is like a kind of like a 1 foot in, 1 foot out, a society kind of like post rehabilitative program once you get out of prison. And so I haven't really told my story.
The story yet.
Yeah, but I will. And so anyway, suffice it to say, did a couple of years in prison. And so work release was kind of that the back end of my prison sentence where I was
a transition.
Yeah, like a transition program.
Back into
where I was able
world.
to go to church and then have a job, but I got to come back. I got to pee in a cup. I got to do all type of stuff. And so one of the things I was able to do through that program was go to church on Sundays. And so I was going to church where I met you. And so to your point, a lot of dudes, we all locked up, we coming. It's women, you get an opportunity to be around women and all that. And so there were definitely agendas. But for me, I really was coming for like, I really want this Jesus guy. Like I really want.
That definitely showed.
Yeah. And so much so that, especially when I got out and I was full time, just like going to the ministry and a part of the fellowship, agendas even on the other side that you were mentioning, right? Where like there were other sisters there who, overtly and covertly made it known that like, hey, I'm interested, bruh. If you interested, I'm interested. And that was a turn off for me. I was like, I'm so dialed in on like trying to figure out my life and figure out this new way of living with Christ, and all of what that means.
Yes. That
even to receive attention from females at that point, I was like that. like it was aggravating. I was like, yo, it's a distraction. You're
I
trying
couldn't
to
even
distract
tell
me.
because
I'm serious, man.
I couldn't even tell. Like truly, you did have the blinders on for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this Negro like can't see. Like I'm like, you don't see these girls like overtly in your face. I'm like, really? Like that really like said a lot about you. Like it really showed like where your focus was, even though there was, a couple women that were like really like aggressive, but
Yeah,
it was
there's a
almost
couple of
like you didn't even like you were seeing through like you didn't even see that. I was like, right, you don't see that? Okay.
A couple of them was trying
And I'm
to
looking like I'm
kidnap me.
Oh, well, I can believe that, but
You won though.
and I ain't have to kidnap you.
You had to kidnap me. I mean, and so actually, it was exactly your disposition where, out of all of and I'm not gonna like make it seem like it was just hundreds of women.
No,
just
absolutely
chasing
not.
me.
No,
but
the church was fairly small, so I mean, it's not.
But that was one of the things that drew me to you initially, where it was like you seemed to have the same kind of agenda and focus and intent that I had, where it's like, man, I'm here to grow in God, love the fellowship, serve people, be active in the ministry, and I'm going home. And like that was something that was like, okay, that's different than, kind of what in my small sample size of what I was experiencing. And that was actually one of the things that really drew me to you. Okay, so
Honestly, you know what? So what was so funny about this is because I didn't know his name was Joshua. Remember we talked about this? Like I remember him wearing these green and white Adidas. I believe it was Adidas at the time. I was just like, that's how I remember him, like something significant. So when they were like, oh, Minister Josh joined the church, and all this time I'm thinking your name was like Anthony. I think it was another gentleman named Anthony or whatever, and I got them mixed up somehow. Now they got the names mixed up. But when they said when they said Josh was going to join the church, I was like, that's your name?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was someone else. Like, oh, that was the dude with the green and white
K-Swiss.
K-Swiss.
I don't know why everybody remembers,
Adidas.
but I must have worn them
and white.
K-Swiss into the ground.
Listen.
Because it seemed like it's a handful of people like they remember those green and white
K-Swiss.
K-Swiss.
For sure. And I'm like, And it's so funny that you are a sneakerhead that I would remember that. But I was like, oh yeah, the dude with the green and white.
Yeah. And so okay, so we meet at the, so you say we met at the school. I say that we met at the church. I know when you say we met at the school, it's because I didn't have a car back then, and we were both going to this community college,
right?
And you were Uber before Uber. You were kind of taking me back and forth to classes and stuff like that. But the only reason we even knew each other there at the school was because of the church.
And that's why I was so comfortable with taking you to. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I don't know why. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
So we met. So the church. We met at the church, and we was, and so I cannot remember the exact moment when it clicked for me. Like, oh snap! Like, dang, shorty fine. Like, shorty love God. Nice big booty. Speaking tongues. It don't sound like because some tongues be like la 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 la, like, but it real tongue. Them real tongues over there. And she got a nice big booty.
I mean,
so
Jesus,
like,
for real.
It's for real. And so I don't remember like the moment where it hit me where I wanted to pursue you. For me, it just felt like overnight you were just kind of on my radar, and because I was going to the church for probably like a good year before I really started like pursuing you.
I don't know, because like, was it a year when you said that, you telling your girl like, oh, I met this girl, like we need to move to. Was it a year after you actually joined? I thought it was before you joined, maybe.
No, before I started pursuing you.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, I had already been. No, I had already been there. I had already been there for a year. With my grandmother, we had already moved. We were here. Like I was fully a part of the church for like a year.
Okay.
Because we was both serving like youth ministry and all that type of stuff. Yep. And yeah, I just felt like it just was like I just woke up one day and it was like I had feelings for you, and I just wanted to. But it was different for you.
So for me, it was an unspoken attraction.
Okay.
It was an unspoken, like, from afar off. Like, I was attracted to you from afar off. And then, like...
But why? What was it?
Well, first, really honestly...
And I'll tell you mine, just so I don't want y'all to think I'm just
listen,
looking for
like,
stroke
real
my ego.
talk. Like I was telling you, no.
I do want that, too.
you deserve that, too. But, no, really, like, your pursuit for God. Like, how focused you were. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, there was not a lot of young men, out... There was not a lot of young men that was really wanting Jesus like that, and that was serious about God and really wanting God and having a relationship. And like I said, like that was something that stood out to me because I told you, like, my prayer, my expectation was like, he gotta love God, be strong in his own faith. He ain't gotta be perfect, but he gotta love God. That's important to me.
So
did you have a
checklist? Did you have a checklist of what you were looking for? Yeah, I mean, I kind of know the answer. But I want to, act like we ain't talked about it before.
Okay,
but did you have a checklist of what?
Checklist was very few.
Okay,
I said that I wanted someone that, somebody that loved God, somebody that was really, making God that priority. And at the time, I was a single mom, so I wanted somebody that would not only just love me and want me, they would have to. Listen, I need you to want the whole package. You got to have me and my daughter, not just me. So that was really, I really stopped there because, let's see, I gave my life to Christ right out of high school. And, man, gave my life to Christ right out of high school. Since 19, I had been saved. And, I did want companionship. And I struggled with the idea of, like, ever having a man touch me, ever.
Struggle how?
Like, I just struggled, like, because, like, at the time, like, there was not really, I didn't know a lot of young men that, loved God and were going in the right direction. It was either, it was too thugged out and they wanted to run the streets and stuff like that. I want to be managed. And so that number at the time was very small. I mean, we talk about 2004 when I gave my life to Christ.
Okay.
That's when I graduated. Yeah, 2004. And so it was really like slim pickings. So it wasn't really a lot of, you know what I'm saying? So it was just me, God, and my daughter, you know what I'm saying? So to answer your question, it was gotta love God and you got to have the whole package. You got to have me and my daughter. You can't just have one. So,
right.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't even get past that point because at that time I was like, man, bumping. I'm just gonna get super hyper focused.
Right.
School, daughter, daughter, school, God, school, daughter. That's it. Like, I tried the dating thing one time. It went horrible.
Talk to me about that.
Oh,
what was your this is I don't think I legit have ever asked you that in 12
I
years.
went on one date when I was when I gave my life to Christ. Like, I went on one date, breakfast.
Okay.
Breakfast. I met this gentleman at another church. He went to New Life Christian Fellowship, another local church here. We went to Cracker Barrel, and it was really about like, oh, I'm gonna be this in the ministry. I'm gonna be that.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting this new whip. I'm getting this new car.
I know.
The whole entire breakfast. Yes, the whole entire breakfast was about this guy. Like, okay, so at what point are you going to try to get to know me? Like, what are your goals? So I literally, like, can we have the check, please? Like, I'm ready to go home. Because I just felt like his arrogance was starting to, like, get out of control. So I was just like, this is not it. And so I just was like, all right, Lord, we're going to focus on you.
Okay. So how long were you in that space of, like, singleness before you and I started dating or anything?
6 years.
6 years?
Yeah, because you came in 10. No, you came in
10.
Yeah, 6 years.
Wow.
6 years.
Wow.
Because I would tell you, like, at the time, the pastor's wife at the time, I cried to her because I was like, I ain't gonna never get married. I'm just, I was one of the, so I feel a lot of the single women now that are saved in the church, and I understand their challenges when it's like, ain't no good man, ain't no real Christian men out here. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? And I understand that when they make those type of statements because it's like I'm presenting myself here and there. But I was just like, you know what? I tell you what, the scripture that kept me during that time is if you delight yourself in the Lord, he will give you the desires of heart. That was my scripture.
Okay.
And I felt like the more and more I just was about God's business, eventually he gave me, obviously, the more you delight yourself in him, he gives you what to desire. But I just got so lost in God. Like, even when you came on the scene, I was just like, okay.
Get out of my face.
Like,
so,
and you are who?
yeah, yeah, definitely. So I got a very intrusive question to ask you. 6 years of singleness is a long time.
Yeah.
Right? You are a human. You have needs. It's a wonderful scripture that you quoted. It's a two-part question. Mm-hmm. One, were you having sex during that 6-year period of singleness? And the second part is, how did you manage, being able to, how did you manage, keeping your desires in check, in light of, because obviously you had a daughter, right? So it's not like you were a virgin.
Yeah.
And so, once you kind of dibble and dabble, you open Pandora's box. It's like, okay, well, now I'm out here. So two-part question. One, were you having sex on that period? And two, how did you manage just your purity during that 6-year state of singleness?
Man, let me tell you. So, no, to your first question, no, I did not have sex during that time. Not to say that the desire wasn't there, but I remember very vividly, like, before I met God, before I got in a relationship with the Lord, I had went up for prayer one Sunday, and I remember at the time, and it wasn't the senior pastor at the time, if I can remember correctly. Yeah, it wasn't the senior pastor, but it was another pastor that was speaking, and he was strongly like, "Do not ever catch yourself in this type of situation again." And literally went to naming all the contraceptives.
Wow.
And telling me, don't do it again.
Catch yourself in what situation again?
Like in a situation where you give yourself over to sexual sins.
Okay.
Because, I had a daughter, and like, stay focused. Do not catch yourself. Do not allow yourself to be in those spaces.
Okay.
So it's so crazy. Like, when I was in high school, and like, well, actually really from elementary school up to high school, I had really close guy friends or whatever. And, I used to confide in them or whatever, and, and talk to them. They would tell me about their girl issues, and I would talk to them.
They were trying to hit it.
Anyway, so I had this one instance where this guy was really like into me and really wanted to, have sex with me. And I tell you no lie, I've had maybe like 1 or 2 close encounters during that time. And I tell you no lie, the moment I even tried to like pucker up for a kiss, that voice would be in my ear. And it was only God saying, do not put yourself in this situation. Don't do it ever again. Wow. And I felt like it was like the fear of the Lord at the time. Like, because yes, I did want to keep myself pure, and I really wanted long-term companionship. I wanted what God had for me, and I didn't want to mess that up. Yeah. And so like that really kind of like helped me remain sober. You know what I'm saying? And I never honestly, like, in that time I had my own place. So I never kept company like that. If it was, it was just family. Like, and outside of that, a lot of family members didn't even come by. Like, you know what I'm saying? I would either go to their house, but I never at the time, like when I tell you, like I was so sold out to God, and I meant it. And like, I did not stay in pockets long with people that were entertaining those types of things.
Because that was going to be my next question.
And I had a prayer life. That's where my prayer life really began. Like in my singleness is where my prayer life really started, like to build and to develop. Yeah. Like when I tell you, when I struggle with certain things, I would have, I don't know if you remember this, like I would have
sticky notes everywhere.
Everywhere. So the moment you walked in that house, you locked the door, is one on right below the peephole.
So I'll say this to those who are listening, like that also was a reinforcing indicator for me, because the first couple of times that I came over your house, I was still living with my grandma. So first couple of times I came over to your house and I seen all these sticky notes everywhere on the mirror in the bathroom, on the hallway, on the refrigerator.
Scripture.
And there was scriptures all over the place.
Bro.
It was not that I had any nefarious intentions, but it was a reinforcing kind of external, representation. Like, hey, don't be playing with her because you can see what she about. Not only could I see it like fleshed out in the church, but you in church and it's easy to be a Christian on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But like Thursday night, right. Friday night,
exactly.
And then, and so for me to see that, I was like, oh, it further just kind of reinforced my resolve to be like, yo, I'm not going to try and, subvert or threaten or, seduce you into, I already had my own convictions, like, yo, I want to be pure for me. But then when I seen the how you was moving, I'm like, oh, I definitely want to be pure, right. Not only for me, but because she really desires to be pure too. And so that was a huge, green flag, right. You know what I'm saying, for me when I seen that. And so, okay, before we move
I kept myself busy.
Because that's what I wanted to ask you.
Like, I kept myself busy. Like, I had a lot going on. Like, I had day school, night school, you know what I'm saying? Helping, my daughter at the time with,
her
schoolwork and all that stuff. And, keeping my house clean and, checking in on family members.
Because that's what I was going to ask you.
I kept myself busy in the church. Every time the church doors were open, I was there.
So from like...
Because I ain't had no friends. Like, I had no friends like that.
Gotcha. So, because you kind of answered the question. I was going to ask you, like, what were some practical things that you had in place during that stint of singleness that helped you to maintain your purity? And so you were saying, a prayer life was super clutch for you.
Yeah, prayer life. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, this is a praying woman. Now, I love reading.
Thank God.
And I love, the scriptures and diving deep into thoughts and theology, from a heady perspective, which is great. And I do pray, but boy,
yes, you do.
This woman, you can pray circles around me. Like I be hitting prayer pockets. I be hitting prayer pockets where it's like, okay, I'm turning up in prayer today. I'm turning up in prayer this week. You live in the eye of the storm as it relates to prayer. And so I can definitely see like, And
can I say something to that? Because I want to speak to the people that do know me and the people that do hear me pray. All glory unto the Most High God. Let me tell you, the church taught me how to pray. They taught me that every situation that you go through in life, you better flip that Bible over in the back, look at that concordance or that index. If I'm sad, if I'm depressed, if I'm anxious, you better be speaking that word. And that's something they taught me. But what I tell people is the church taught me how to pray, but my life experiences, my circumstances and situations is where I learned how to pray.
That's good.
And so like that, like in itself, like there'll be days like people were like literally piss me off because, I was going through a situation at the time, the baby daddy drama, situation.
That's another whole episode. We're not going to get
out. Episode, but like even in that, like my transition with, friends, like I lost friends when I said yes to Christ. Okay. I lost friends. And like I would be so upset about certain things that I would explode in my closet and cry. I never let people see me cry, but I would explode in my closet and be like, God, this is what I wanted to say, but I didn't because I felt like he just would not allow me. So so that was one thing that, that kind of helped me, like, just prayer, and then still trying to develop some healthy relationships with some of the people in the church. So,
all right. So 2010, we met. I want to talk a little bit about just kind of like our dating process because that was turbulent for me because it was like once the switch had got flipped in me that like, yo, I want to be with you. I want to pursue you. I want to build something with you. Because I had been so well, I maybe I don't say have been so, but like I expected like a automatic yielding from you. Like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for you to come sweep me off my feet and, you know, and take me into the cat, whatever. And your response was like the exact opposite, where it's like, he was like, and that was crazy to me. And so, okay. So in times like where, you know, when we both had a mutual friend, you would go over their house. I would hit them up like, hey, whenever she's over there, let me know. So I can slide through.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You releasing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm plotting on this.
Sure.
I'm plotting. So I come over there and, you know, we talking. And you were always like nice and warm and all of that. But it wasn't really anything like beyond that. And so, you know, even when we were kind of like in that quasi dating, courting phase, you still kind of kept me at arm's length. I would say for like at least a good year.
Yeah. That's safe to say.
So much so that I was about to be like, man, bump you then.
Oh, I missed my blessing.
You done missed your blessing.
That I missed my blessing.
You done missed your blessing. But, you know, and so even though while we were dating, and so I think it's important to say this too, because we had a lot of ups and downs during our dating process. Yeah, sure, and we were talking about this recently with a mutual friend of ours.
In church service good. It was just like
where it never dawned on me that me pursuing you and us having a dating dynamic relationship, you were the first woman in my life that not only I really dated as a believer, I did date someone else as a believer, but someone that I was really trying to, you know who I'm talking about. She
was not a believer, baby.
No, I said I dated as I was a believer. How do you know she wasn't no believer?
Baby, she was a wolf in sheep clothing. I'm just going to say that.
Oh my goodness. Anyway.
I got the DL.
I'm not talking about her soul at this point, and I hope and I pray that she is a believer.
Absolutely now.
Now, yes.
But then, baby, that wasn't.
Okay. Well, so I had one dating experience as a believer outside of you, but when you and I were dating, that was the first time where it's like, you know what, I'm really trying to pursue a woman from the right place with what, you know, I believe were right intentions. And so, and like, that was foreign to me because I only had one mode of like interacting with a woman, dating a woman, trying to, you know, build with a woman or get something out of a woman or something like that. And so because of that, like, I didn't know what I was doing with you in terms of like, yo, how do I manage your heart? How do I, you know, manage the boundaries that both of us have in place for our own lives, for our own purity? How do, you know, I learn to, you know, die and selflessly like want to serve you and stuff like that. Like it was a lot of trial and error of trying to figure out what it even means, not just even to be a husband, but to be a boyfriend. Listen, you know, as a young Christian man, you know, in the dating.
Boyfriend, wow.
Yeah, crazy, right? Like
I haven't heard you say that word. But like, no, for real, like it's so interesting that you said it. Like I've never heard you like really explain it like that. Like that was really where I was at, like as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not wanting to, I'm telling y'all, like I was so, and I know you were too, like so sold out to God. Like I ain't want to mess it up. Mm-hmm. Like even in the dating, like, am I fooling myself? Am I deceiving myself? He is a good guy. He loves God. You know what I'm saying? I know his motives up here. He may not be perfect, but I'm not perfect either. But like, I really did not. And then really trying to manage my own emotions and flesh and the time, because you were very attractive.
Was? Okay.
No, still is, baby. But I'm just saying you had the muscles, had the whole package. But very attractive even to today. But yeah, so, you know, just really trying to figure out how to manage my own emotions and, you know, my mind and my relationship with God and obviously my daughter, because, you know, I'm you know, trying to see like, oh, you know,
how do I fit?
How do you fit into that? Yeah. And even then, like, and I know we'll talk about it. Like even then, and maybe not during this segment, but even then coming into the marriage, like that was still hard,
For everybody.
So yeah, everybody
me,
was
Maya,
going
you
through.
like trying to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that I definitely trying to manage all of that.
Okay, so fast forward a little bit. We go through, we date. I finally break you down. I finally,
His best catch.
And fast forward October 19th, 2012.
Was magical.
We get
Period.
Married. We get married. What's so funny?
It was so magical.
It was,
It's like
I'll tell you this. I reflecting back on the day we got married, I wish I was more present in the moment. Like I feel
you
like
said that over the years.
I wish I was more because my mind was still like, how
much
I
like today. Oh boy,
still
being
like,
consistent.
Yeah. Is the cake okay? What about those
Worry
guests?
worm.
We got enough chairs over there. Play the song that you're supposed to play. Where the DJ at? Da, 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 da. And I wish that I didn't care about any of that stuff in the moment and to be more
he was trying to present. Be the wedding. What do you call him? Wedding director.
Yeah, y'all was calling me Groomzilla.
And the groom, he like, bruh, like breathe.
Yeah.
Like you was trying to orchestrate all of it.
Yeah, yeah. And so for that, it was a beautiful day. And none of like my internal, disposition took away from like the beauty of the day for me, or I don't think for anyone else. But I wish that I could have been more present. I was present. I wish I could have been more present.
Absolutely.
And, but it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. Like all of our family and friends were down. I was going to say something else. I would have served some alcohol at the wedding. We were so safe back then. We were, don't even give me Welch's grape juice. Now I'm like, but anyway, so I thought about that. Like, man, I wish I wasn't so religious because I had some liquor at the wedding. But no, it was a great day. It was a great day. And,
and it was so funny. I'll never forget this because at the time, I think it was Pastor Mary.
Mm.
When we did the cake cutting. Like we did a cake cut, and I think it wasn't until like after, the reception was over, and it was like, somebody was like, "Did you see the cake?" And I was like, "What you mean? The cake was amazing. Mm-hmm. Did you see the cake?" And I went back and looked at the cake. I'm like, "What happened?"
Yeah, that mug fell over.
It fell over, and it was just, I don't know. And you know what was so awesome though, like yourself and. At the time, Pastor Mary, like, it was like, y'all made sure, like, I was in the clear of anything that had went, like, left or wrong. Like, y'all saved the day. Like, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So that was, like to find out after, it was a laughing matter for sure afterwards. But, like, I think even in the moment, if I did find out, like, I was just so, like.
Yeah.
The wedding was just so magical for me. Like, I don't think nothing could have messed it up.
Nah, it was definitely dope. But what's so funny? We still have not printed out our wedding pictures to this day. We still got all of them on the disc.
My mom was like, "Did they come out right?" I'm like, "Mama, 13 years later,
they still all on the disc."
I know we did terrible with that.
Yeah, we never printed them out. And you know what?
I didn't like the fact that we looked like we was just as dark as ever because like we took pictures in the sun, like the sun was like beaming in our face. So we like, cheese, but other than that, like Jeff did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to throw it to a new segment. Right. This is a wonderful segment brought to you by the good people at There Is Hope. Y'all check this out. We'll be right back.
Oh, my expert human family. That's y'all. What's going on? Welcome to your There's Hope segment of the week. Let's jump right into it. Listen, I've been sitting with Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, and it talks about how it's God that works in us to desire and to execute the things that please him. In our journey as humans, it can be challenging at times to desire the right things, and not only with desiring, but to even execute it. And furthermore, to do what's pleasing in God's sight. That can seem like a lot, but I love this verse because it shows the faithfulness of our Creator, that as we journey according to His will in faith and alignment with Him, He is faithful and diligent to give us the desires that please Him. And not only that, He empowers us to do it. It's like an open book test. We get to win by having Him lead us in the direction of doing what pleases Him. That's so freeing. That's so calming, and that just gives so much assurance and so much hope for me. And I hope it does that for you. So as you're journeying this week along your human journey, as you're evolving and being enlightened and being empowered and being educated, remember, it's God working in and through all of these things to help you desire and to accomplish the things that please Him. Hope that speaks to you in some way, shape, or form. But always remember, no matter what you faced in the past and what you may be going through currently, my expert human family, always know there's
Welcome
hope.
back. That is our There's Hope segment for the week. Man, shout out to Richard. You be expecting to have that segment as a staple in the show, because There's Hope is not only a brand, it's a worldview.
Yes.
And so super thankful that they're going to be contributing to the show, not only as a sponsor, but even perspective and words of hope. And so There's Hope. Salute to you. Okay, so coming back off of that, we were talking about kind of some of our origin stories, talking about, how we met, what that process, looked like in terms of courting. And there's still so much that we could have talked about. The first time I said I love you and you didn't. First time I kissed you and you didn't kiss back. The cat that almost replaced you. There is so much
that's so hilarious
that we could be talking about. But I want to move the conversation forward a little bit. And I want to talk about something that I think has been somewhat of an evolution in our marriage as it relates to gender roles. I know when we first got married, like I kind of came into marriage with a kind of a set of ideas about what my duties and responsibilities were, what yours were, and kind of the lanes that we were supposed to be in terms of like domestic responsibilities and stuff like that. But I want to really get your take, on how you thought about gender roles and kind of what your role would be in a marriage and in a relationship then, and then even now, maybe how that's evolved and transformed over time. And just kind of your take on the application of gender roles in a marriage dynamic.
Okay, well,
or marriage and or relationship as well.
Marriage or in a relationship, like, with the years that I had given my life to Christ, I would see some of the older saints in the church, some of them, were married, but like with my upbringing, like when I was single, I don't even know if my great grandmother was ever married, but my grandmother wasn't married. My mother wasn't married at the time. So it was really no like standard by which, the male need to do this or the husband need to do that or the wife needs to do that. Like, okay. I just knew like, that when things needed to get done, they just needed to get done. You know what I'm saying? I did have some level of understanding just by things that I would see when it comes to, a husband and a wife, because I always felt like the old way was the traditional way. The husband go get the bread and butter, you work. And then the wives are to sit home and nurture the family and cook and clean. And honestly, like, I think one time we had a small conversation about that. I'm like, brother, I ain't that one.
What do you mean?
I to be sitting home and taking care of the house. Like, because honestly, like, we both had jobs. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We both had jobs. I already knew how to keep the house clean. I really knew how to go out and work and get it. You know what I'm saying? And for me, like, within a marriage, I think it's different for everybody. Like, everybody's situation is unique. Like, with us, like, you know what I'm saying? As long as there's like mutual respect, there's communication and understanding, like, it don't matter who working, because honestly, both of us have dealt with job loss. and we've had to get in and pivot and go, you know, because I remember like when we first got married, you didn't cook. I loved cooking.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I kept the house clean, cook. And I always thought, I don't know, for some reason I thought you were military just because of how you were just so methodical. You kept stuff together. You was very neat and clean still to this day.
Prison.
Still to this day. It is. I was like, because I come from a family with a bunch of military. So I was like, did this dude ever serve in the military?
No, I served all right.
Stop. but anyway, but, you know, and I did love that about you. You just, you know, was always tidy and clean. But, you know, nonetheless, like, you know, as far as gender roles, it's unique. Like, you and I, you know, it's a partnership. I always said that, like, it's a partnership. Like, you know, and there's just ways in which you just have to really be selfless. And you have to be like, you know what, he taking out the trash today. And be okay with it.
Yeah.
And be okay with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So as far as gender roles, it's unique for each marriage and relationship or whatever. Like, to me, it's like, it ain't just for Josh for you to take out the trash.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I see that the trash need to be taken out, I'm gonna take the trash out or whatever like that. You know,
do you feel that as a woman, like that there are specific, you know, responsibilities and maybe household tasks that, like, hey, I like that you own. It's like, yo, I know this is my job in the house, or this is my role in the house. Or you like, yo, whatever needs to be done and who's ever available to do it, that's the way that we rock. Like, what is your default kind of mode or disposition as it relates to, like?
I feel like one thing that I know I do well is like making sure this house is a sanctuary when you come home. Like, I like to make sure that the bed is made. I like to make sure that the house is tidy and clean at the end of a week and at the start of a week. You know, I know that's important, you know, for a man to have that type of peace. And for me, because it psychologically, it does something to have a tidy house. Make sure the kids, you know, food is on the table, you know, the kids are fed and homework and, you know, they're put to bed. So I think that's something that I have noticed. And then, you know, I give kind of, you know, credit to myself, like, you know, 100%. These are things that I make sure like are done. That
100%.
And laundry. Make sure you don't have to worry about doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
So no, and you know,
and we're okay with that.
No, 100%, 100%. And I mean, the way that you do, you know, keep house, is like flawless in my eyes. And so I'll tell you, because I know I've told this, you know, me and you and I have talked about the couch, the thread and the couch situation before, and how that really challenged me, because prior to when you and I started having children together, I did come into our marriage with pretty, I don't want to say rigid, but just ideas of just like, okay, you're going to do the cooking, the majority of the cooking and cleaning and so forth. And it's my job to take out the trash and kill the spiders and pay the bills and change the oil and that type of stuff. And when I'll tell you, when my idea of gender roles first started to be challenged, is when we had KJ. When we had KJ, because when we were living in that apartment off of 50, and you know, I would come home from work. You were on maternity leave, but I would come home from work, and I would just see how much was involved. So, as a matter of fact, okay, we both took maternity leave. You remember that? You took maternity leave for like 3 months. I took like 30 days of maternity leave.
Yeah, I think I do. Yep, I do.
And when we were both home and I was able to see how much work, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't even want to do this.
Listen,
I was like, I want to go back to work.
Listen.
I want to stay home and deal with this baby pooping and crying and throwing up and colicky.
No sleep, crying,
oh my God. And so when I was
no sleep over here.
When I seen how much work was involved in that, it made me more eager to do other things. It made me more eager to like, man, you deal with the baby, I'll cook. You deal with the baby, I'll wash the clothes. Like that was easier. And so like that was like the beginning of like kind of like a little bit of an evolution in my own thoughts about like what, because once I started doing it, I was like, why? I was like, this ain't even no big deal. Yeah. And it's helping our house to kind of operate and function better and stuff like that. And then what solidified it for me was the couch situation. And so I'll tell y'all quick story.
Oh, so it's no longer about the dish detergent cap. Oh.
No, that's something different. That's something different. Okay. That's something different.
We got so many stories.
That's an insider. And so we had this couch, brown couch, I remember still. And like now we done start having kids, so the couch getting dirty, holes getting in it, all type of stuff. And so like it was a piece of thread coming off the couch causing a hole to open up in the lining. And I seen it. And in my mind then, when I seen it initially, I was like, this is your job. You should see this. You should get the needle and the thread, and you should fix this. Like, now I'm sitting right here looking at it, but I'm like, this is your job.
And the hole is getting bigger.
And the hole is getting bigger. And as the hole is getting bigger, my frustration is getting bigger too. Because I'm like, why have you not addressed this hole in this couch yet? And so I think like a week went by. Hole still there. And I'm intentionally not saying anything to you. But on the inside, I'm like, okay. 2 weeks go by. I'm like, okay. Now, week 3, I'm livid. I'm like, oh, so the whole couch is going to tear up. You just ain't going to do nothing. And I remember I got like the needle and the thread so like spitefully and just kind of like did a very bad job of like sewing it up. And we had a whole conversation about it. And it was at that moment where I was like, yo, that I was challenged to like, yo, who says it's your job to do that? We both sit on that couch. We both lay on that couch. We both, you know, are enjoying, you know, the comfort from having the couch in the home. Right. And now there's something cosmetically wrong with it because you enjoy it and I enjoy it. Who's to say that it's your job to do it, right? And that was like, and then once I did it and I realized like, man, I could have been sold this hole up 3 weeks ago and it would have been no issue at all. But the hole got bigger. My attitude got bigger. And it was something that was within my power to address. And it was like during that time where like me being more involved in like the household stuff, the cooking, the cleaning, right. And then lo and behold, I realized, I enjoy cooking.
Yeah, so much so that
now it's like, yeah. Baby. I mean, so when we want to, I think it's safe to say this, like when I get in the mood to cook, like I be wanting to like, I don't just be wanting to like cook like regular stuff, but when I get in the mood to cook, I be wanting like cook dishes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're more of like the everyday cook, like the boys need some, you know, I need like, and you cook well. But like now.
So you're trying to say you cook better than me?
I think I do cook a little better than you. I think just a little bit.
I wouldn't say just you cook better than me. Although you do inspire me, I would say that you really have inspired me to venture out of the norm.
I was going to say I cook more broadly than you.
Absolutely.
Well, I won't say better,
your
but
cooking
more
is good
broadly.
And my cooking is good.
So I will go into like cookbooks trying to find a dish that we don't eat regularly.
And mine's more traditional.
Yeah, and
but
you're
you
more
have
traditional.
Inspired me to get outside that
yeah,
box,
that's a better way of saying that.
I'll let you have that.
But definitely still better. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, so since then, like, and so now, and you were saying it before, like the way that we kind of flow now is just like, for the most part, it's whatever needs to be done, whoever is available to do it. That's really kind of how we're moving.
As far as gender roles, you know, I mean, it's a partnership.
Yeah,
you know, it's definitely a partnership. I mean, because there was a time where I was doing all the grocery shopping.
Yeah,
and then you started doing it. Can I just say this for the ladies?
Talk to them.
Yeah, like for the ladies, like I really and more a compliment, a big compliment to you. Like, one of the things that I really enjoyed about my husband, like, I never really had to deal with, like, I told him he needed to do this. I told him he needed to clean the bathroom. I told him, like, my husband is always like, Josh is always like, what can I do to help? What can I do can I, help the boys get in the bath? Can I do their homework? Can I do this? Can I do it? So I appreciate you so much for that. Always just being more forthright, forward thinking, intentional about those things. And I think that comes from, that experience with Julian, which was very early in our marriage.
Yeah, it was pretty early on, but turn this into a love fest, which I'm fine with. But like that comes that me being intentional about always wanting to help and always wanting to make sure that everything isn't on you to do and to pull through, especially in the house. I mean, that really comes from me seeing your willingness and your effort and your heart and so many other things that we do. I'm like, man, I would feel like a complete sucker to sit around and watch you work the way that you work in the house and me not contribute and participate in that. To kind of go back to the gender role thing, like I think maybe it's a very limited view of manhood, if I think that my sole job is to put the bacon on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like I God has still called me to go to work, earn money, bring that money home, make sure the bills are taken care of, in addition to helping the boys with their homework or giving them baths or cooking or the laundry or this, like, because you hit the nail on the head with the word partnership. Like, this is a partnership in life, and and you and I have said this is kind of like a little bit of a refrain in our house. There's only one name that matters in this house, and it ain't Joshua, and it ain't Stephanie. The only name, the main name that matters in this house is Matthews.
Absolutely. All day.
And so if the name of Matthews is what is the driving force behind our partnership, then it don't matter what Joshua has to do in a given moment to move that name forward, or what Stephanie feels like she will have to do in a given moment to make sure that the partnership of that name is moving forward productively and healthy and all that type of stuff. But you make it so easy. You're not quarrelsome. You're not the agitator. You're not a nagger. You just make it so easy. That. Yeah, you never been that. You just make it real easy to kind of get in and be able to, just kind of support and lead out on all these things in the house. And so
share interest, definitely. Share interest.
Yeah. Sure. So tell me this. What was something that you wish you knew prior to marriage?
It was something I wish I knew prior to marriage. You know what? Really, how to effectively communicate.
Ooh, talk about that.
Like, because like growing up, or like, I know it's something that I do. Like when we're talking and entertaining. Maybe an older couple, somebody that got more skin in the game, with marriage. Like, what are some things you could tell us, some insight you can get us about being married and just longevity. And it's like, effective communication. What does that mean? Because prior to getting married, like, that was something that was not done. It was always like, yelling, fussing, y'all do this, y'all do that. Couldn't ask why, because why was like a cuss word growing up. So it's
you talk about like in your family?
In my family, like prior to getting married. So I'm just telling you like where this all stems from or whatever, which created. And I didn't have my mom and dad growing up. I was raised by my grandma as well. My parents were young. They were military. They went out to military. So, I'm in a house. My grandmother raised us, 13 other siblings, including myself, siblings and cousins. And so, like, there was no time to really, like, talk about, deal with conflict, like, and talk about effective communication when things got hard. Like, that fuse was really short, like, because it was, my grandma working 2 and 3 jobs trying to keep the house afloat. You know what I'm saying? So there was no time to really like learn, like, really, like, a lot of stuff we learned from friends. From friends. And so, like, coming into a marriage, it's like, communicating effectively. Like, I already had kind of like a low self-confidence because the mother-father thing just wasn't my dynamic growing up. So it's like, I was a very shy individual growing up. So, like, I really wish I knew how to effectively communicate in moments of fear and moments of doubting my own self and not believing in myself. And then, like, how do I effectively communicate in moments where I feel the need to be vulnerable about or transparent about some things that I may have been feeling, or pain that I may have been dealing with throughout throughout my childhood. But, like, just really knowing how to effectively communicate when it comes to confrontation. Because I always ran from that. Or use some type of defense mechanism, even in marriage. Like, and, that's something you've taught me, is just really, like, being more forthcoming when it comes to taking that initiative and being intentional about, like, let's talk about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing certain things. Let's talk about it. And that's something that I feel like you do well. But before coming into the marriage, something that I wish I learned, just really know how to effectively communicate. Because you hear communication is key. That's it. Communication is key. What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that look like? How does that transpire with a blended family, or with, you know what I'm saying, me and my husband not getting along? Bills need to be paid. Who gonna work? Who gonna do this? Who gonna do that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, that was something that I really wish that I would have known.
And I think we both have gotten better at that over time, because similar to you in terms of, like, the family dynamic growing up, like, you ran from, like, conflict, and on my end it was silence. And so in the face of conflict, I just turned into a mute. Like, I ain't got nothing to say. And I remember, like, early on in our marriage, I used to rock like that. It was like, we would have an issue, and it's like, I go silent treatment for like 2 days.
Yeah, bro. And I was like, bro, you gonna talk to me?
Yeah, you was
I
like,
provoked your behind.
Yeah, you was like, we ain't doing that.
We gonna.
And, like, that was like, so to even force myself to talk when I'm upset, or I feel misunderstood or triggered or offended or whatever. Like, that, the first, man, and I didn't even realize that was the way I dealt with conflict until I got married. Like, to shut down and just not really engage at all. I did not realize that, because up until that point, when I would get to that place, I could just throw that person in that relationship away. It's like, I don't have to talk to you anymore, because like, you're disposable. I'll just throw you, and that's not a healthy way of dealing with it. Right. But then when you marry somebody, it's like, man, I can't easily throw you away. Right. Like, I got
in your face.
Yeah. And it's like, unless I'm gonna just be a creep and be like, I ain't coming home. But, like, if you really trying to make your marriage work, it's like, you gotta go home, and either you gonna create a dynamic where it's just like everybody walking on eggshells because you quiet, or you're gonna have to figure out, what is really going on inside you, how to communicate that in a way that brings some resolution, so that you just ain't walking around here quiet for 2 or 3 days, and the level of, because I dealt with a lot of silent treatment growing up as a child, and what that does is it creates, like, you feel that silence with some narrative. Like, it may not be verbal communication happen, but silence is communicating something. Yeah. And what that something is, I'm going to fill in the blank of what that something is. And I just remember, like, when you and I, when we got married, it was like, the more I'm silent, the more the more there's a space for the devil, or friends, or media, or music, or to maybe even to fill that place with whatever narrative that may not even be true to how I'm feeling, to what I'm thinking, to what my intentions are. And so if I don't use my words are still going to fill that void. It just may be the words of other people, or the words, your own words. And so, like, that really, challenged me to open up even in moments where like I'm frustrated or we're upset or whatever the case may be. And it's been freeing to really kind of like grow in that area, because also like it translated into like my professional, relationships, some of my relationship with my friends and homeboys, where it's like, man, there's an issue here. Like, let's not act like there's not. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And we could talk about it healthy. And even if there isn't a resolution, at least is understanding.
Right. And one of the things that I did learn, like, just about you and just about myself, like, give people the space to feel.
To process, yeah.
To process it. And when I say give you the space to feel, it's like not like going off the handle, which you've never done, but like if you decide you're going to be quiet for a couple of days, I say man cave. But I was like an emotional man cave, mental man cave or whatever. But like, you have the space to feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, still, don't gaslight him. Like, let him walk away. You're like, that is responsible. Like, it is okay. So I just be like, okay, process.
Yeah.
So that's something I had to learn and not feel like I had to have the last word. I remember that. I always feel like I had to have the last word.
I remember that too.
Like, you ain't going to want up this conversation.
And I'll let you have them. Go ahead. You can get all the words, all the last words. Because guess what? I ain't got no words.
Like,
you got all the words.
Like Stephanie,
you got.
Trust me. Be quiet.
You got all the middle words. And like, go ahead, talk to yourself. You got them. I'm checking out. Okay, so listen. Let's go to one of my favorite segments. We're gonna kick it to Words for Nerds, and we'll see you when you come back. What's up, experts? Listen, it's time for my favorite segment on this show thus far. Words for Nerds. And if you're nerdy, let's get wordy. This week's word is rapacious. 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 What rapacious means is to be given to seizing for plunder or the satisfaction of greed. You just out here violently, grossly, flagrantly greedy. You're rapacious. I like this definition because it's shorter and I think it gets right to the point of the word. Inordinately greedy, out of proportion with your greed. You're predatory. You're an extortionist. That's what it means to be rapacious. Now listen, I hope this is a word that does not characterize you or me at any state in our life. But if you see somebody that's rapacious out here, now you know what to call them. You see somebody that is just wild with their greed and by any means necessary type of disposition, you know that you're dealing with a rapacious person. And that's someone that you should watch out for. Listen, I encourage you to use this word this week. If you can fit it into conversation at some point, or at the very least, comment a sentence in the comment section below using the word rapacious. All right? Listen, let's get back to the show. Out of here. Okay. Remember, this show is about education. It's about enlightenment. It's about empowerment. And so the Words for Nerds segment is for all of us to be growing in our ability to articulate our thoughts and ideas. And so you heard it. The word for this week for all of my nerds out there is rapacious. Listen, I said it in the segment, but I'm going to say it again. Drop a comment using the word rapacious in a sentence. Let's grow and learn from each other in this community. And if you really, really want to be bad about it, use that word in a sentence this week. Knowing more words and having a array of words to communicate your thoughts and ideas is really a superpower in this world. Okay, rapacious. That's the word. All right, so I wanna kind of like maybe put like a little button on this conversation because man, we can talk for a long time because we got a lot of experiences together. Okay, so I wanna answer kind of that question, and I have one more question for you in terms of what I wish I knew prior to being married. And this is something that you've heard me say before, and it dawned on me most vividly on our 10-year anniversary when we were on a cruise. Remember, we were on a cruise and we were in a hot tub. You
I
remember
remember
that
we did a little 10 when we took a picture on the cruise. I remember.
No, so our 10-year anniversary cruise.
Right.
Okay.
Remember we did 10 when we took a picture
Oh,
of 10.
yep,
Remember?
that's right.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So the conversation that we had in the hot tub that night, and I was sharing with you the thing that I, like, after 10 years in, the thing that I realized, and which I wish I knew prior to getting married, it would have saved me a lot of unnecessary frustration, was that it doesn't have to be perfect for it to be good. And my personality,
so good.
Yeah, man. I mean, but
So good.
my personality, as you know more than anybody else, is hard driven on like getting things right,
Right.
things being right, things being perfect, things being, which is kind of the crux of the show, Expert Human, because it's an oxymoron where it's like, yo, you cannot be an expert at being a human because to be human means to be imperfect, to be developing, to be growing, to be learning, to be making mistakes and all the things. So how you gonna be an expert at all that stuff?
Right.
And it was a revelation for me where for the first, like, our marriage went through, I think, like 3 seasons over this past 12 going on 13 years, where the first, I don't know, 4 years, it was almost like an introduction of like, this is who you married. This is the world that you two have together. And it was just like, oh, okay. It was like a reckoning of sorts. And then the next 4 years, if I'm being honest, were probably, the next 4 years were probably frustration on like wanting to tweak all the things that I saw in you, that I saw in me, I saw in the kids. And because of that, like it was 4 years of like frustration where it's like, yo, why can't you just get this thing right in you? Why can't the kids just da-da-da? Why can't I just, and that was,
that's accurate.
That was a hard 4 years for us. I felt like it was a discouraging 4 years for you because I wasn't as probably vocally supportive and emotionally supportive as I could have been for you. I think it was a challenging 3 years for our daughter, even because I wanted her to be a certain person for several different reasons, some good, some bad, that she was like, yo, I'm not going to be that person. Right. And it was challenging for me because I'm like, yo, it made me look and turn like, yo, maybe you're not who you think you are because you're not getting the results that you feel like you should be getting. And that's a result of you being less than what's required for those kind of results. And then we went, like I said, that was a 4-year stint. And then these last 4 years have been, to me, kind of restorative, where it's like, there is so much good here. There is so much to be thankful for, so much to lean into in terms of how we're still growing and learning one another, but then we're also learning ourselves as we're journeying through life. And it was really a God thing that helped me to really get a fresh pair of eyes to be like, yo, if you're expecting perfection out of this marriage, then you're going to always be discouraged. And you're going to miss the forest for the trees. Like all the joy and happiness that you could be having, you're missing it. Yeah. Because you're focused on these couple little things that that aren't right by your own expectations and standards. And it was like, God helped me to be able to see, like, man, listen, perfection is a ghost. And you're going to miss out on not only the joy that you could be having, but your marriage is never going to be perfect because you're in it, Joshua. Like just by the mere fact of your contribution, good or bad, it's going to make the marriage imperfect. But that doesn't mean that it isn't good and that there isn't a lot of good to be had and joy to be had in it and all of the things. And I'm telling you, once that switch kind of flipped in my own head about like, man, this ain't gonna be like, stop striving for perfection. Give everything, give your all to all of what would make, you know, a good healthy home and marriage. But man, it was a game changer for me. And so I wish, because in my mind, what I estimated perfection all around, I'm like, oh, they look like they got a perfect marriage, and they got a perfect marriage, and they got a perfect marriage. And like, nobody's marriage is perfect out here. So while you striving to like have something that don't exist, you're missing out on all the stuff that you could be enjoying.
Right.
And so this last 4 years of, especially these last 2 years of our marriage, those 2 years, the first 2 years, you know, was, I think, God just working on my heart. And then these last 2 years have been the best 2 years, because I'm like, yo, my wife is amazing. My life is amazing. My God is amazing. My children are amazing. And guess what? Ain't none of us perfect, but it's so amazing over here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
There's so many thorns on this rose, but God, this rose is beautiful.
Yes.
You know? And so that's what I wish that I knew probably before being married. Like, yo, man, get those false expectations out of your mind.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, I got a couple of questions, but this is my last one for us to kind of talk about here. What do I want to go with this one? Okay, we'll end it with this one. What challenge in our marriage do you feel has taught you the most?
I think we already talked about that, didn't we?
No, I was saying, what did you wish you knew prior to being married?
Oh, and I said effective communication.
Yeah.
What challenge?
What challenge in our marriage has taught you the most? Or let me rephrase the question. What lesson doesn't have to be a challenge. You can be good or bad. Like, but what lesson do you feel like has brought the most substance to your life as a result of our marriage?
So for me, like, I think it kind of goes back to the communication piece. Like, you know, just knowing like you can't read my mind. So I have to trust you enough to know, like, even in moments of vulnerability, that my heart is safe. And not to say like I never really necessarily felt that it wasn't safe, but I know like being single and having some heartbreak, you know, and dealing with that, like, had caused me to have a wall up. Okay. But knowing that like my nakedness is safe with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And being okay with you know, not necessarily going into within my vulnerability, not necessarily looking for a solution.
Yeah.
But like my head on your chest is safe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I need that for me as a woman. Like, I need that level of protection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as a wife, I need to feel protected in that way.
Yeah.
So, and you challenge me in so many ways to like really check in. Like, I see this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're one to be trusted with my heart. So like you challenge me in ways to grow. Like, really think about, like, because you know I had issues with being defensive about things. Like, you being defensive about something, like there's something really there. Like, and you just found a way to like really get into that vulnerable part of me to say like it's okay. Like, I'm here to help you nourish, help you grow. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Help you, you know, be the best Stephanie you can be, and you've helped me with that. So like, you know, I know that is something that I can truly say.
Man, that's
and that has resonated with me. I think the last, I wouldn't say hard conversation, but the last conversation we had, I think it was before the business, like before I launched the Rich Hair. We had a conversation on the back patio, I think.
We had
a hard conversation.
Yeah.
It was hard for me. Like, it was really hard to be
vulnerable,
because a lot of things that you see that you've seen, it's like, oh yeah, he's right about that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, Stephanie, you don't got to be right about all these things. You're not right about everything, Steph.
Okay.
But yeah, but like that really helped me to see me. You know what I'm saying? And check in with me. Like,
Yeah.
this is a safe place. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can.
Yeah. No, I mean that's.
So it's really taught me to kind of like really think about what I'm thinking about and really like checking in with me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I want to be better. And honestly, like, can I say this to the ladies? Like, if you have a man in your life, a husband in your life, a man in your life that you can trust, and you love, and you're really trying to work it out, like, know that his intentions, if you really know him, like, and you study him, like, know that his intentions are pure. He ain't perfect, but like, know that like anything that he's bringing to you or is noticing, maybe like a bad habit or in ways you already know you need to grow in, but you're having some challenges, you may have a wall up. Like, it's safe to really like be vulnerable with your spouse or with your husband. Like, it's safe. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not a situation where, at least it should be a situation where you feel like you can't trust him or, you know, you can't be transparent. And just know his motive. His motive is to, like, it is God's will for him to be that individual, to bring out the best in you. Like, God uses him as an instrument to do that. So, like, with me, it was like I was always so defensive. Like, you know, and already will say like things like, like, you don't tell me, like, I won't say it like that. Like, you don't tell me what to do, or you don't, you know, that ain't what I'm thinking. I'm not being defensive. Like, now we finna have a whole nother conversation. You finna check out. I'm finna check out. It's just nothing is getting resolved.
Right.
But it's like, no, there is a reason why that's there. He's pressing a space in your heart or in your soul that needs to be resolved. And it's like, at the end of the day, when you really think about it, it's just like, he ain't saying it just to put you down. Like, he's saying it like,
yeah.
we really need to be honest and really need to be intentional about what that is. Because remember, it's a shared interest. It's a partnership. You know, God is the foundation. We doing this together.
Yeah.
It's not and that's something I struggle with in my own heart. Like, we're doing this together. It's not like it's a tick mark, you know, in his mind or in his heart about like, oh, see,
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
We're not keeping
record of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, and that comes with a level of maturity too. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I hope I didn't get away from the question, but you know, but like, just know the man's intentions. Goodness gracious. Like, just know the man's intentions
believe his intentions.
Believe his intentions and trust that like he got your heart. Like, again, he's not perfect, you know, but it's like, you know, you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted for sure. For sure. You know, and I believe in your judgment. I believe that, you know, my heart is safe with you.
That's a gift. That's a gift you give me. Your trust
and I can be,
and my judgment. Like, that's a huge gift that you give me, because you really allow me to be able to lead without the pressure of having to get it right every single time, because I don't. And even when I'm like, hey, babe, let's do this or that or whatever, and it doesn't work out, you don't circle back like, man, you don't know what you're doing. You know, in terms of like leading the family and stuff like that. And so when you have that level of latitude to like make decisions, to be, you know, thoughtful about different, you know, things you want to do for your family without that pressure, like, you know, you typically, you know, you make better decisions when that type of pressure isn't on you. And you do a wonderful job of that. So I'll tell you this as we close. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from being married is, you know, there's always a lot of talk about love languages and, you know, my love language is this, my love language is that. And so, you know, it's always talked about from a receiving perspective, like, yo, this is the way this is the language that I receive and understand as love, right? Quality time. Like if you're spending time, I receive that, right? Or gifts or words of affirmation. Like when love language is brought up, it's always from a recipient's point of view. But it's never really talked about from like, yo, this is my love language in terms of how I show love, how I give love, right? It's like I have a default in me, a default output for my love language.
Right.
It's like, yo, this is the easiest, most natural, organic way that I show love to you. Now you said you receive love a certain way, but this is how I typically give love. And one of the things that I have learned is like, yo, as a man, and I feel like this responsibility is huge for my fellas out there, whether you're married or not, is to learn your wife, learn your significant other, and be humble enough to adjust your love language to the way that she receives it. And I remember, like, for me, like, you know, I'm sneakerhead. I love, you know, so I was like, I'll just buy you a lot of shoes. And that is my communication to you. I love you. But you like, I would much, thank you for the shoes. I would much rather you rub my feet.
So I can stick them in the shoes.
So I can stick them in the shoes or not. And for me, I'm like, I don't want to rub your feet. I just want to buy you something.
Right.
And like that growth of like, yo, not only know what your love language is in terms of receiving, but be thoughtful, intentional, and humble enough to say, I want to learn your love language. And then I want to, if it's not natural to me, I want to learn how to speak your love language so that the way that you most receive love can be felt from me. So that like so that you're not like, hey, my love language is received in Mandarin. And I'm like, yeah, but the way that I speak love language is in Russian. And it's like, well, I love you. It's like, I know you love me, but it ain't really resonating with the way that I want to receive the love.
Right.
And so like I've had to learn, and still am learning, to be like, yo, study what your love language is in a given season. Because in one season, you be like, yo, rub my feet. The next season, you like, buy me some shoes. The next season, you like, take me on a trip. Next season is like, you know, talk nice to me, you know, or affirm me. And it's like, yo, just that's the thing that I have and am learning, you know, like how to love you. And not just in the way that is most convenient for me, but loving you in a way that you can actually receive and perceive the love that I'm trying to give. And so that's been
that saved you a lot of frustration. I remember we went through a season where I was just like literally trying to shove the way I felt like you needed to receive it down your throat. I don't even remember. I think it was like buying you things or something like that. Like, no, babe, I can buy the things that I love.
I was like, don't buy me nothing.
Because he was just like, I just want your time.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That was freeing for me. Like, and even then, like, here go my defensiveness. Like, you don't tell me like that.
Yeah.
This is what
I'm going to buy you these tank tops. I don't want you to buy me no tank tops. Set up a movie night, a date night. That's what I want you. I'm going to buy myself what I want to buy myself. Right. Organize a whole weekend for us. That's what I want you. That's the way I'm receiving love.
Yeah,
and that's still pretty consistent. I think that's still kind of how I receive love. I don't, you know. So no, this has been great. This has been great. Yeah. And so I want to just end this off with a scripture because I think it's appropriate.
For sure.
And so this scripture is for my fellas out there, unmarried, who are like, yo, what's the benefits of getting married? Marriage is just a man-made institution that is that isn't as advantageous to men as it is to women, you know, and for that reason, I'm reluctant to get into marriage or get into like a seriously committed relationship, but more so marriage, I want to read just one verse for you guys. And I want to focus on a part of the verse that I think maybe doesn't get emphasized enough, to our detriment. It's Proverbs 18. Okay, this is Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. It's just one verse. And it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so that is a verse that's pretty commonly quoted and I guess, known, that especially, maybe from a lady's perspective where they like, you know what, when you find me, you find a good thing and that's all good.
Yeah.
But the second part of this is super important for my fellas out there who may be reluctant in running from marriage. The second part of that verse says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And part B says, and obtains favor from the Lord.
Yes.
So he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And then once they have found that good thing in the form of a wife, God says, I recognize that you have found that good thing, and I am going to release or provide or make accessible to you a specific favor that comes along with being married. And so I think that that's super important for us to think about, because in the the times that we live in today, that especially for men, where there can be a kind of anti-committal kind of rhetoric where why would I want to commit to one woman and make her my wife, and maybe she can divorce me, or is she gonna sign a prenup? She want to take my money, she gonna put me on child support, all of those things. And because of that, like, I'm just going to avoid marriage altogether. What I do want to show you is that you essentially cut off an opportunity for favor and blessing from God. Marriage isn't solely just a partnership in terms of two people cohabitating together, but marriage is an institution that was created and that is blessed and that is recognized by God in such a way that he says, when you enter into a marriage, fellas, when you enter into a marriage, God says, I'm going to favor you because of this union. I was watching the Damon Wayans interview on Club Shay Shay about 2 weeks ago, and he said something I thought was really interesting and in alignment with this verse, where he was talking about his divorce, but he was saying that he was encouraging his sons to get married because, even in business relationships, people who are looking to do business at a high level, they typically like to do that with other men who are married, because the assumption is, if you are married, you're used to conflict resolution. You interact with conflict resolution on a daily basis. You're willing to compromise. You're pliable, that you're willing to meet halfway and discuss ideas on how you can move company objectives forward. And all of these things take place in the most concentrated form within a marriage. And so even from a business perspective, you're able to fine tune qualities and characteristics that translate into the professional world and translate into other interpersonal relationships. And so that's my encouragement to you all today. It ain't even deep and super and spiritual. Listen, if you want favor from God, one of the locations where you can find favor is in a marriage. One of the places where God makes favor accessible to men that would elevate their life and elevate their earning potential and influence and relevance in whatever spheres that are, matter to you, is to find a good woman. The Bible says a good wife, not just any old whatever. A good woman, a good wife, find that good thing, lock her down, marry her, be committed to her, be faithful to her, serve her, water her, nurture her, all the things. And God says, as a result of that, I am going to give you favor, sir. So that is my encouragement to you all. Listen, episode 2 is in the bag. Thank you all for tuning in. This is the Expert Human Podcast, where we enlighten, educate, and empower every human being to be the expert version of themselves. Y'all come back same time next week for episode 3. Boo Boo, you did amazing, girl.
Let's Always.
We finna turn these cameras off, and then we gonna turn them on for something else. But y'all not gonna see where we getting ready to turn them on for. Mind your business. All right, we out of here. See y'all next week.